For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's introductory press conference for its new women's basketball head coach, Lindsay Gottlieb. Now, Shotgun, first off, I want to get your overall reaction to this hire. I know it made waves in the world of basketball. She was an assistant for 2 years in the Cleveland Cavaliers and is coming to Southern California. What was your initial reaction to the hire?
I mean, anytime that you take a coach from the NBA and bring him down to the college ranks, I think that you're making an investment there, and a coach that has drawn rave reviews from everyone around that Cleveland Cavaliers organization. You saw the outpouring of support from the players and some of the front office people with Cleveland yesterday. But before that, let's not just look at it as what she's done the last couple of years. Before that, she was at Cal. In 8 years at Cal, she took them to 7 NCAA tournament appearances, 7 teams with 20-plus wins, including taking the 2013 team to the Final Four, produced a number of All-Americans, produced some WNBA players. Leisha Clarendon is one of the top stars that came out of that Cal program during that time. So they produced a number of players, and she has produced a number of players. So that tells you that the development is there. She knows how to recruit, and now she's gone to the NBA and learned some new tricks of the trade, I think you would say. And, I think she's only going to add to, what she can do. So I think it's a huge hire for USC. You get someone with a track record, with a Final Four track record, and this is a different type of eye-catching, the name pops off the screen type of hire, whereas USC, the last couple of hires, you had Michael Cooper, you had Cynthia Cooper-Dyke, you had Mark Track coming back. All three of those kind of caught your eye, and you go, those are interesting names. But there's the name recognition, but not the track record that Gottlieb has from her time at Cal. So I think that this is a huge hire for USC. And there's been a lot of talk in women's basketball about the potential of USC as a sleeping giant, because the location, the history of USC, you look at the documentaries that have come out during the pandemic, looking back at those teams with Cheryl Miller, you have Lisa Leslie, you have the McGee twins, Cynthia Cooper-Dyke. There's been so much talent that's come through the USC women's basketball program, and that hasn't necessarily been the case in the last decade or so. And I think this is an opportunity for them to take that step and go back in and be a contender in the Pac-12, which is going to be something tough to do, because the Pac-12 just had the 2 teams in the national championship facing off against each other in Arizona and Stanford. You got some really quality programs in Oregon, Oregon State, UCLA. There's a number of high quality programs in this conference. So it's going to be tough, but I think when people see that her name attached to USC in the rest of the Pac-12, they're going, oh, that's not good for us right now. And I think that's exactly the type of hire you're trying to make.
Mm-hmm. And it seemed like, from reports we've heard and also what she mentioned in her press conference, she wasn't expecting to leave the NBA as soon as she did. And it seems like USC had to aggressively pursue her. It sounded like one of the things that won her over was that not only is she the head coach, but she kind of has a GM role. She talked about how in her conversations with athletic director Mike Bone, she was asked, what will it take to have a good program, to have a championship level program? And so she kind of gets to call the shots a little bit going forward.
Yeah, she talked about the support staff that she wants to bring in on the mental side of things with the game, mental preparation, but also support staff to help, the players, further themselves and empower them after they get their degree. What are you going to do with that degree? Are you just coming to college to play basketball and then you leave 4 years later and you haven't created any of those life skills that you need to become a successful person? Those are the type of things she wants to build this program and make it a unique program, not just a successful basketball program, but a successful program for all the players that come through it. That's something she mentioned there. So I think it was very interesting, which tells you there's going to be resources invested. I think that was a big thing here that was talked about a little bit in the press conference or the press release yesterday, but I don't think she would have come unless USC, went ahead and said, hey, we're going to put some resources behind this. We want to make this a winning program. We think it can be, and that's where you get into the sleeping giant side of it. Can USC, if they put the resources behind it, now they have a coach that can coach them up, has some, a track record of being to the Final Four. You look at this and go, that's a program that could be on a rise in a quick way. So I think that you're looking at this as a hire that it took some effort to get it done. But I think when she talks about it, and she said that Mike Bone made it clear that there's going to be the investment in women's basketball. And her quote was, there's kind of this runway in front of me, this blank canvas to say, you tell us what a winning basketball program needs, and that they're going to, And what do you need? And we'll go get it. And that's something we've heard from Clay Helton, when Mike Bohn came in. So I think that the athletic department is putting the resources and giving the assets that these programs need, these teams need. Now it's on them to go and win some games.
Mm-hmm. Lindsay mentioned how she's Lindsay 2.0. She had a stint at Cal, like you mentioned, Shotgun, and she's coming back after learning some valuable lessons in the NBA. She talked a lot about what she was able to learn and gather in those 2 years. What'd you have to say?
Yeah, I think that you look at it, and obviously there's X's and O's things that definitely will stand out. The spacing of the NBA, she said, the way the big men are used differently, the pick and roll situations. She said she wants to implement a lot of that stuff. She wants to be able to play like there's a shorter shot clock and be able to play with a little bit more tempo and create that spacing with earlier in the shot clock. But also it's about the relationships. That was one of the things she said, she said that she learned that coaching basketball is not just the tools that you have and the plays that you draw up, but your ability to deal with people, to build a culture, to grow people as you're trying to build the collective. And, that's a verbose way of saying you realize it's about the interaction between person to person. And she said that one of the unique things that she said is that at the NBA level, the players don't really care about your gender as a coach. They want to know two things. Can you make me better? That's what they really want to know. Is it going to make me millions of dollars, which is what comes beyond, can you make me better? But do you care about me on the court and off the court? And I think that's very interesting because that goes back to the things that she talked about with the support staff that she wants of these players. Not just, hey, can you come in and put up 15 for me? But can you come in and can we get you a degree? And once your basketball playing career is over, whether it be in the WNBA, overseas, professionally, whatever it may be, can you then become a successful, member of society and have a job that you're really excited about and those type of things? I think that's what she's trying to build. And I think, it was a new adventure for her, basically. She said, it's basketball and yeah, I'm still coaching and there's X's and O's. She said it's a whole new game when you go to the NBA and the schedule is completely different. You're not planning for a game for 4 or 5 days. You're planning the day when you get into shoot around. That's when you start putting in your scout for the previous team or the team that you're playing that night. So it was a change of scenery for her, but a change that enabled her to learn a lot of different things. And she said that one of the things she found really interesting is she said it was kind of like a think tank of basketball. There's no limit on the coaches that are allowed on the court at a time, like the NCAA. So there'd be 14 people out there, support staff, different things, analytic people. And she wanted to pick the brain of every person that was there to try to learn something different from everybody. So she learned a lot from the front office people, she said. So, and that's why she thinks that she can come in and have kind of a dual capacity role as in a GM, but also as a head coach. So I think that she learned a lot of different tricks there as far as on the court, but much more, if it sounded like she learned about the relationships that you need to build off the court and how to go about that and be more efficient. That was one of the words she used, being more efficient with her time and how she goes about trying to build relationships and putting in what's important into the game plan as you go.
Mm-hmm. This is a USC team that went 8-10 last season. She said she met with the team via Zoom last night, but she's excited to meet them in person. But she described her ideal team going forward, and she said engaged, locked in, aggressive. What are you expecting for this women's team going forward, Shotgun?
I mean, she said a couple of cliches in there, that we want to play an exciting brand of basketball. And she said, it's the quote that you hear in every press conference, basically. But it sounds like maybe you get a little bit more tempo. That's the way she talked about the shot clock in the NBA being shorter. Maybe they want to play with a little bit more tempo. But one of the things I thought stood out was she said she was really attracted to this job because there's a lot of good players here. And she said there are incredible players coming in. And that includes 2 McDonald's All-Americans that are coming in as well with Clarice from Roland Prep and Raya Marshall from Inglewood, I believe it is. So they got a couple players, talented players that are coming in to add to the mix. And, they've got a couple of, Mark Track is known for his recruiting. And he brought in a couple of intriguing players there. She said, it's not about the lack of talent in the room. It's about figuring out what impacts winning and the ways that we have to do that. So I think that tells you that she didn't look at this and go, ugh, bearing cupboard there. That's going to be a difficult job she goes, there's some talent there and a couple of tweaks. Maybe we can turn things around and with a quickness. And especially when you have 2 freshmen coming in, like they do that are McDonald's All-Americans, I think you get really excited about the potential of this program going forward.
And looking big picture, Shotgun, this is another data point of the type of hire Mike Bohn can make as USC's athletic director. What does this say about his strategy of who he's going to find? Because I know in previous administrations, it's kind of been the familiar face, the USC connection, but so far it seems like he's trying to find the best candidate for the position.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple of the hires that they've made since Mike Bohn took over as athletic director, and the extra resources that are being invested with support staff and graphic designers and all that for the football program. That when there's an opening, they're going to go try to find the best person for that opening and try to compete on a national level. I think that's what is most interesting. This is a hire that probably wasn't an easy hire behind the scenes, pulling someone from the NBA in the middle of a season to come in and be a head coach. I think that they probably had to work pretty hard at it, and you go and get it done. This wasn't there's some familiarity there. This wasn't a former player in the program. This wasn't someone that fans in LA will know the name of Michael Cooper, but does he know how to coach women's basketball? There's a lot of variance there in how you communicate with males and females. And, it sometimes it takes a little bit of a transition period if you make the jump from one side to the other. So I think that she knows how to coach. She obviously has the skill set, and she's only added to her skill set. So I think that shows you that they were going to go out. They're identifying really good candidates at every different position that we've seen them, try to make it higher, and they're going out and getting the job done. They're not just, we identified these 5 really good candidates, but they all said no. No, they're identifying and going out and getting it done. So, as they continue to make changes through the programs, you wonder what other names will be added to the list of the coaching roster at USC.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, Shotgun. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I think it's a really good hire, and I'm excited to get back to Galen Center and see the women of Troy play. It's been a few years since I've gone and watched them because it wasn't necessarily that exciting product to go watch. So we'll see how quickly things get turned around there, and if it comes into Pac-12 play, if they're in the mix, they could be a team that can make some noise. And I did want to say Ryan Marshall from Linwood, not Inglewood, wrong Wood. Definitely from the wood, but wrong wood there. She's a 6'3" guard, though. Watch out for her next year. She could be special.
Wow. Well, that's going to wrap it up for USC's introductory press conference. For Lindsay Gottlieb, for Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.